When microwaving a bag of popcorn, why doesn't the first kernel that is popped burn by the time the last kernel is popped? The process of popping a kernel absorbs more energy than it releases. When there are still lots of unpopped kernels, so much heat energy is absorbed by all these kernels that it prevents the temperature of the oils and steam in the bag from rising to the point where an already popped kernel would burn. Once most of the kernels have popped, the heat energy has nowhere else to go and the temperature goes up, eventually burning the popped ones. This is why it's almost impossible to get all the kernels to pop without burning some of them. What would happen if you collected all the unpopped kernels, and microwaved just them some more? Would they eventually pop, or are some kernels destined to never be popcorn, no matter how long you cook them? Some have minor imperfections that make the shell no longer vapor-tight, which means they will have dried out by the time you try to pop them. Without water in the shell of the kernel, it will never pop. I've tried this. 1 or 2 of the kernels popped but the rest just sat there. They didn't just sit there. They endured high levels of microwave radiation and their faint screams were masked by the sound of the microwave's fan. All for your little experiment. I hope you're proud of yourself. When I was young, we cooked popcorn on the stove with a little oil. One day my boyfriend poorly timed his microwave popcorn, and ended with half the bag unpopped. We decided to see if we could cook the rest on the stove. He had never seen it done that way before, and it surprisingly popped up pretty nicely. My friend tried this once by putting the entire bag in the microwave again because all of them didn't pop. You know the thing they specifically warn you not to do all over the bag. His microwave caught on fire and the smell didn't leave the house for weeks. I still don't let him live it down. I put a bag of popcorn in the microwave for too long, thought it was meant for 230 but was actually supposed to be 125 to 130, but managed to save it and take it out at 137. No unpopped kernels in sight, first time in my life, happy crying face, proud moment. Also, nothing was burnt. Lil perfect bag of popcorn that was. Kernels burn because they get too hot. They get too hot because they get so much heat. They get so much heat from water vapor. Water vapor comes from exploded kernels and inside. Exploded kernels help accelerate the rise in temperature outside as their water vapor is dissipated amongst all neighboring kernels. There is very little water vapor outside the kernels initially. All of it is inside. Only the water inside the kernels can heat up due to the microwave. Liquid water can only get to 100 degc. Water vapor is not limited in temperature. When there's a lot more water vapor around as most kernels have opened, the outside temp can get very high and either directly burn open kernels or the little butter, oil that was added for taste also starts heating up and burns them from below. Microwaves are really good at heating water. Dry things don't heat very well compared to wet things. When you start microwaving a bag of popcorn, almost all the moisture is inside the kernels, and so they absorb the microwaves and kernels begin to heat up. A kernel pops and becomes popcorn. Microwaves continue to be absorbed by the kernels full of moisture. The dry popcorn is largely unaffected. Kernels continue to pop. Eventually there are almost no kernels left, they have all popped into popcorn. Their moisture was effectively protecting the popcorn by sucking up all the microwaves, but now there are almost no kernels full of moisture to suck up the microwaves, and instead the popcorn is sitting in a cloud of superheated vapor. The popcorn begins to burn. Good question. Microwaves heat up different things differently depending on how they absorb them. That's why some containers are microwave safe and some will melt if you put them in. Water absorbs microwaves really well, that's what heats up when you microwave something mainly, that's why it has a funky texture when it cools down. All the water is boiled out of it. Kernels pop because they have moisture inside them and when it heats up it builds up pressure and that is what makes them pop. Once they pop they heat slower because the water is gone though. You can still burn them if you go too long though.